What's up, everybody? Well, Oklahoma crushed West Virginia last week, and now everybody's all fired up about Big 12 tiebreakers. I guess that's what one good week can do for this fan base, right? I'm John Hoover, publisher at AllSooners, and Ryan Chapman, Randall are on their way in here. They're going to help me break down this week's big game at BYU. OU is now 8-2, while BYU's 5-5, and they're on a 3-game losing streak. It's not good. Oklahoma can make the Big 12 championship still, but they've got to win their last 2 games, and they've still got to hope for help from someone else. That means taking care of business in Provo, where the Sooners are a 24-point favorite, but OU is also 0-2 all-time against the Cougars. Huh? Right? Crazy. Kickoff Saturdays, 11 a.m. Central. That's 10 a.m. Mountain Time if you're going to the game. Of course, the 3 of us will be there. The AllSooners crew, as usual, will be on the sidelines and in the press box. We'll have it all for you at allsooners.com. Gentlemen, let's dive into today's previews. First up, I can tell you this. It's hard to win in Provo. Loud stadium, 63,000. BYU is 260-85 in Lavelle Edwards stadiums. They've beaten some ranked teams through the years. The home crowd has had a lot to do with that. But which Oklahoma team shows up to BYU on Saturday? The one who stumbled around in Stillwater and even admitted that some of those mistakes were forced by the hostile crowd? Which I don't ever remember hearing somebody admit to that, but they did. Or is it the Sooner team who put together a complete 4 quarters, Brent Venables said, against West Virginia? Which one?
Yeah, Oklahoma found something last week where it almost felt like they played loose and free with Danny Stutzman back defensively, and almost the pressure was off in the Big 12 race. It's out of their hands, and you saw a more streamlined approach offensively, less east-west. They just got north-south. They just are playing the same 5 guys on the offensive line, barring injury. And you're seeing Dylan Gabriel, Gavin Sawchuk cook in the run game while Dylan Gabriel is connected with Drake Stoops in the passing game. And so I think that's the group that you're going to get, that more carefree, efficient, the group you saw against Iowa State and at certain points against Texas, certainly West Virginia, of just an offense that took care of the football, took that extra second, like when they went hyperspeed, warp speed, 1 extra second, make sure all the wide receivers are set, all that stuff. A group that, instead of spiraling like it felt like in Stillwater and chaotic, they were in control. And I think that starts with Jeff Lebby having a really good game plan. Again, I label it a streamlined game plan, and then just a ton of confidence in Dylan Gabriel, letting him kind of be the general. So Oklahoma has played in some hostile environments this year. The Texas end of the Cotton Bowl, certainly a weird weather game in Lawrence, all the emotion that was at Boone Pickens Stadium. I think that they're prepared for that, and that you're going to see the calm, cool, collected, efficient approach, which should lead for a big day for Oklahoma's offense in Provo.
Well, who I think you mentioned it. I mean, obviously this is going to be one of the biggest games probably in school history at home. I mean, a top 15 team in the college football playoff rankings. It's definitely going to be probably the biggest home game of the season. I think those fans will be fired up. And I mean, the capacity over 60,000, I think that definitely could affect OU in a hostile environment. I do think that eventually the talent level of OU will come out on top, but I do think that, especially early in the game, we could see some maybe some miscues. We've seen some errant snaps from Andrew Rain before this season. I mean, think back to, obviously, Kansas, think back to Oklahoma State, think back to Texas. So I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility to see some missteps, but I think that probably more early in the game, and I think that by the end of it, OU will, the talent factor will end up coming out on top for them.
Yeah, so this one's actually a little tricky for me. I think Jeff Lebby was way too conservative against Kansas, right? And he was better against Oklahoma State. And then last week he just unleashed the Kraken, which is Dylan Gabriel throwing it deep, right? So what does he do this week? I think he might feel the need to reel it in again. I looked at the weather report. It's not great. And we all know Dylan Gabriel is not an accomplished cold weather quarterback. So plus OU's run game has come to life the last few games. So maybe Venables and Lebby want to continue that vibe. I could see that. But all that is to say, I think with a more conservative game plan in what could be bad weather, I do think the Sooners make fewer self-inflicted mistakes, and I think they win pretty easily. All right, second question. OU, I guess you could say they have an identity now, maybe, because they're finally finding their playmakers with both Drake Stoops and Gavin Sawchuk setting career highs in back-to-back weeks. So let me ask you this. Which Oklahoma player, Drake Stoops or Gavin Sawchuk, has a bigger impact on Saturday in Provo? Me, I think I've already answered my own question, right? If the weather's choppy, it's going to be Sawchuk racing up and down the field through the BYU defense. Probably. Simple as that. I think it's simple as that. But if you think about it, Drake Stoops is a fanatical run blocker, and maybe Sawchuk doesn't break those runs without Drake Stoops blocking. And heck, maybe we see Drake blocking, not blocking, but returning punts this week, right? After what happened last week with Gavin Freeman. So his impact will also be big, but maybe it'll just be different. What do you guys think?
I think Drake Stoops is going to have a good day. I do. But the guy that, for me, more likely to go off would be Gavin Sawchuk. You look at some of the weather projections. It's supposed to be cold. Should dodge the precipitation, but you're supposed to do the same thing in Lawrence. Didn't. You got a wet, rainy day. And that all lends itself to just leaning on your running game, especially as Gavin Sawchuk has really come on here in the last 2 weeks. And look, BYU's defense, pretty bad at all facets, but slightly better in the passing game than the running game. I think this is an instance, especially early on, if Oklahoma can just run the football, assert themselves, maybe take that crowd out of it a little bit. And this is where you hear Brent Venables and Jeff Levy talk about wanting to be aggressive and dominate people. A BYU team that not just is on a 3-game skid, but has been shellacked all 3 games. If Oklahoma can start running the ball at will, I think you get a lot of Cougars on that sideline start to go, here we go again, that kind of thing, which only plays to what Oklahoma wants to do. So I think Gavin Sawchuk, they should have those running lanes there, whether it be Tyler Guyton back or Jacob Sexton at right tackle. You've seen as that offensive line has steadied, he has come online, making guys miss. He looks that explosive guy that we saw in last year's Cheez-It Bowl. And I think this is the afternoon for him to really have, I don't know if he's had a coming out party quite yet, if he's that good. Either way, I think this is Sawchuk's game to dominate in Provo come Saturday.
I really think that Drake Stoops is going to be, one of the most important pieces. I think that, we've kind of seen him evolve from that safety blanket slot receiver to a guy who can really attack at all levels of the field. I mean, Dylan Gabriel's been finding him deep down the field. He's been breaking tackles. I mean, over 160 yards last week, 130 the week before that. So 4 touchdowns the past 2 weeks too. A guy who's been going crazy really the past 2 weeks. 4 catches, 76 yards against Kansas even the week before that. So really those past 3 weeks, he's been the statistical leading receiver. Kind of mentality-wise, he's been the alpha, the number 1 receiver for the Sooners. And so since Andrell Anthony's gone down, him and Nick Anderson have really been the main cogs. I think that Drake Stoops' experience really gives him even more of an added value, especially with Dylan Gabriel back there, an older quarterback. So while Nick Anderson, obviously a great player too, I think that Drake Stoops is really going to be the guy that makes a difference.
All right, fellas, appreciate it as always. Good job. You guys are just going to have to check out AllSooners.com the rest of this weekend for our wall-to-wall coverage of OU at BYU. It's the final road game of the year, and our staff has got you covered. As always, pregame, the live in-game blog, the post-game interviews from players and coaches, our post-game reaction, the All Sooners podcast, of course, the post-game podcast, which is certified fresh from the press box, and so much more. Just keep it right here at AllSooners.com. For Ryan Chapman and Randall Sweet, I'm John Hoover. See you guys.